Okay, we are ready to go. Welcome everybody to another Finance Friday course, Wealth Creation weekly happening. We do these every week. We've been doing these every week for like 3 or 4 years now. I'm Jerry Fetta, owner, founder, CEO of Wealth DynamX, and I am focused tonight on your financial education, your financial literacy, to the tune of how do we earn more income? Okay, that's really what I want to discuss tonight. That's the main focus, the main topic. And within that topic, the subtopic is the use of classes, courses, classes, and coaches in order to do that. Now, before we dive into this, we're going to have a great discussion tonight. We're going to answer some questions. We're going to gain financial literacy and do all the things we always do, but I want to cover my ground rules. Number one, what is your purpose for being here? I want you to have that before we even get started. If you haven't thought about that, write that down, come up with it, make sure you have it before we dive into the content of the course tonight. Number two is I want you to get rid of the idea that you know it all. Nobody knows it all. Nobody likes to know it all. Okay. There's not a single person that can say they know everything. There's always more to learn. And the number one reason people do not learn is because they don't think there's anything left to learn, right? So they think they either know it all or they think that something is unknowable, that they couldn't know it, right? So number one, you don't know it all. Number two, there's the ability to know. And so that's why we're here tonight. And that's, again, back to that first point of what is your purpose. And then number three, I want you thinking about application, right? As we're talking about this, Friday night going into Saturday, there's plenty of time to loaf, hang out, chill over the weekend, but I want you to think about applying. My rule with learning is if I learn something and do not use it within 24 hours of learning it, I'm not going to keep it. Right? Like that's my own arbitrary that I came up with. But what that does for me is it puts me in a position of urgently applying information, right? Like when I learn something, you can ask anyone that knows me well, I immediately apply it. There's no lag. There's no wait. There's no, let's set it on the back burner and use it for later, because I believe when you do that, you forget what you learned and then you never use it. And then it goes away and then you've got to relearn it. And now you've got this thing about, well, I already tried this. I already learned it. I already read it. And it's back to that point of I already know it all. But again, knowing is applied or is evidenced or manifested by doing. If I can't do it, I don't know it. Right. So that's my ground rules tonight. Nice and quick. Now the topic is one that I think is a lot of fun to cover and to discuss. Right. And the main thing is, again, courses, classes, and coaches, but relating to earning income. Right. So I'm going to give you a little bit of my backstory with this. I'm 29 years old. I run a company that does multiple millions of dollars per year. I'm not special. I didn't go to college. I didn't inherit money. I grew up in Big Lake, Alaska. My parents were divorced. I had 60 kids in my graduating class. I was a C student, didn't go to college, had no reason to be successful. And I went out and I did it anyways. Okay. And there's thousands and thousands of people in this country and probably, across the world, even more, that do the same thing, right? Like they just make it happen. Right. And so part of making it happen is this thing of earning more income. Okay. So when I started working, the most I had ever made in a year was like 20 or 30,000 bucks, in that range. I'm 18, 19 years old. And that's kind of like you're starting out right after school. I didn't go to college. Right. So I'm going into the workforce. I don't have any hard skills. I worked at the gym for a little while. Then I did pizza delivery and started my business. And I wasn't great at earning income. Okay, not only was I not great at earning income, nobody in my family was, right? Like I didn't have, the rich relative that I could go to and be like, this person knows the secrets of money. I'm going to learn from them. Okay, until I was probably in middle school, I didn't actually know anyone that had money, right? Like I've talked about this before. It was like this mythical creature. Like, where are these wealthy people? I didn't see them. I didn't know them. When I got into middle school, my best friend's dad, I've talked about him before. I didn't know he had money at the time. I just knew that he didn't have to work. I didn't know like this guy has passive income and all these different attributes that put him in the position of not having to work. So even while I knew this guy, I didn't know he was, well off. I didn't know he was wealthy. I didn't know he was financially independent. I didn't find that out till later. And then I realized, I was in proximity with this person this whole time. Now all these things make sense about why he didn't have to work. Right. So when I started working, I didn't have a lot of skill. I didn't have a lot of things that made me marketable. I didn't have a lot of things that put me in high demand for income. So that was my first barrier. The second barrier is I didn't come from a background where we had high income, right? It's kind of like the law of the lid. My family's lid growing up was like 30 grand, right? Like that's about what my mom and dad made combined in a year, was about $30,000 per year. And so, they didn't tell me that or show me the tax return. I didn't have any idea of the way that income translates into expenses and what that meant. I just knew the standard of living that we had. Right. And then as I grew older, I realized, okay, we lived on about $30,000 a year. Right. And so with that, as I was 19 years old, 20 years old, that was a barrier for me because that's what I thought was real. It didn't make sense to me that I could earn more income than my mom and dad. Right. I still had this thing of like, okay, well, that's what they earned. Hopefully someday I can do that. I kind of almost looked up to it. Like if I could earn $30,000 or more, that would be great. Okay. So when I started doing that, again, I was doing pizza delivery. I was working a lot of hours. I was running my business a little bit here and there on the side. And I was coming up flush with between me and Lexi's income, about $30,000 a year household. Okay. And so at that point, I realized, okay, I'm doing what my parents were doing. I want to do 50. Right. I want to earn $50,000 in a year. This was my goal at like 19, 20 years old. Right. That was a big deal to me. To me, that was, you might as well call it wealthy. Like I was like, if I could just make 50 grand, life would be good. I would be set. That's more than my parents earn. That's more than, anyone that I know is earning. Now I wasn't looking at people's paychecks. So I probably did know people that made more than 50,000, but in my universe, that was the ticket. Right. And so I set out to make $50,000 and I had no idea how to do it. Okay. And I'm sharing this backstory because for me, it was very much a real scenario of having the want and the desire to earn income and having no idea how the hell you do it. And thinking it's a magic secret and not having an example of someone I could look up to say that's how they're doing it. I could mimic those behaviors. Right. And so when I talk about earning more income, there's going to be different groups here. There's going to be people that are already earning, good income. You're making, mid to high six figures. You're doing well. And it's going to seem a little bit elementary, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to talk about tonight applies to you too. Right. Then there's the group of us that maybe are like where I started, where it's like, yeah, I make 40, 50,000 a year. 6 figures sounds impossible. I want to do it, but how? What's the magic skill? What am I missing? Right? What's the unicorn that I need to figure out in order to make this happen and earn my income goals? If you would have told me at the age of, 18, 19, 20 years old that I would be making, not even like millions, like $1 million, like, hey, at some point you will make $1 million in a year. I would have liked that. I would have been like, that sounds cool. Like go future Jerry. I would have had no idea though, how it works. I'd be like, yeah, how am I going to do that? Right. Like I'm the pizza guy. Okay. And so as we're talking about this, I'm going to tie this into a few things that we've talked about in the past, because I think that this applies, but I'm going to also talk about a few new things. Right. So here's a little bit of my chart, right? So if I were to start this out, like I was at 30K or so a year, and I wanted to get to 50. That was my big number. And this was not that long ago. This was 30,000. This was 10 years ago. Right. And then it probably took me a year or two to then get to the 50 marker. So this was like 8 years ago. Right. So this isn't like in 1970 when $30,000 was a lot of money. Guys, I was born in 1992. Right. So we're talking about fairly recent in the scope or in the scheme of Jerry's total lifespan right now. I'm 29 now. Okay. So basically I got to the 30 and I had no idea how to get to the next level. Right. And the next level for me was the 50. Right. And so what I want to talk about first on this, and again, relates to courses, classes, and coaches, is I grew up around this time frame. Like when I look at here, this was probably 2012. This was probably 2015. Okay. Just to give you a real time frame. Social media was not that popular yet in 2012. Right. So like the idea of buying something because you saw it on a Facebook ad was ludicrous. Right. Think about it. In 2012, like I remember having the conscious thought that Facebook ads are how you get scammed. I was like, I would never buy something on Facebook. It just didn't have the credibility. Now we use it for everything. I advertise on Facebook. Right. So this is what things were like in 2012. In 2015, like you were a pioneer if you were advertising on Facebook. And my point here is that the advent of courses, classes, and coaches had not exploded yet. Like in 2012, it wasn't the thing that you were going to buy an online masterclass or a webinar series and that you were going to learn about marketing or ClickFunnels or this or whatever the buzzword was. Right? Like that didn't exist yet. In 2015, you might, but it was like one of 5 people you were going to buy it from. right? It was going to be Grant Cardone or Robert Kiyosaki or Tony Robbins. It wasn't like anybody and their cousin could come up with a course or call themselves a coach, right? So this wasn't popular yet. And so for me, I don't think I fell as much into the struggle, but what I see today happening is people saying, all right, good. I want to earn more income. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be better at sales. I want to grow my business, whatever it might be. Right. And so they enroll in some kind of a course online, usually overpriced, right? $997 masterclass, like sound familiar, right? Usually overpriced, and it's usually got very basic knowledge. It's not anything special. Or they enroll in a series of classes, right? Which in my opinion might be better than a course because at least it lasts more than once. Or they hire a coach, right? Which in my opinion, like most people don't need one. Okay. Like there's certain scenarios where you might, I don't think most people need one. I don't have one. Okay. And I haven't had one in years, but this didn't exist yet. And so what I see happening today though, is people like, I want to earn income. Let me go do these things. Then they don't earn more income. Right. And they keep going back to the well to get the more coaching because the reason why the coaching didn't work was, whatever. And they come up with this reason, they get another one and another one and another one. Or, they jump from course to course, or they're always enrolling in classes. Right. I didn't have that. So I had like Audible was a thing, right? So when I wanted to start learning, I didn't have like a master class I could get involved in. I would just go buy like a book on Audible. That was for me the equivalent of like buying a course, right? But on Audible, it was like free samples. I don't even think I paid for the books when I was getting them, right? You could just get the free trial. So I was doing that. Coaching, totally out of my universe, right? What I was looking for free mentors. I was looking at, okay, what are some people I could learn from, people that maybe go to my church or they're in my life or whoever that I could get mentored by, and they're not going to charge me. That's what I was looking for. Now, what I found out is the reason why, and this is not even the big goals yet, this is the small ones. The reason why this was unrealistic to me is because I knew I wasn't putting in the work to make it happen. Right? Like think about this as a pizza driver, right? As a pizza driver, you're going to make what? $1,500, $2,000 a month. So I already know I'm not going to make $50,000 as a pizza driver off the table, right? Like that's not even an item up for discussion. So that means that if I'm making like 20 grand doing pizza, I have to come up with the difference of about $30,000. And I've got to do it through my business, right? And at the time in my business, let me tell you guys what, there are certain things you got to do. You have to promote, right? You have to promote and you have to market. You have to prospect. Okay. You have to sell. That's actually a thing you have to do. It's a real part of running a business. You have to close, right? You have to follow up. These are not things that cost money, by the way. And I wasn't doing these. I wasn't promoting, right? I was too shy. I was afraid of what my in-laws and my step siblings and my siblings were going to think of me if they saw me start to promote my business on Facebook. So I didn't do it because I was embarrassed and I was ashamed and I didn't want to have to deal with being made fun of or told that I was overdoing it or any of those things, right? So I was not promoting. Prospecting. I was scared of the phone, guys. Like this again, like this was back before I think even Facebook Messenger exists. Instagram like wasn't really a thing yet. So now you have like advertising and direct messaging and all this stuff. Back then, when I was getting started, prospecting meant you called someone. You called them on the phone, which almost nobody does now. Like when's the last time you actually had a phone call with somebody? It's always text or IG or whatever, right? But you called them on the phone and you basically convinced them to have an appointment with you. And it was awkward and it took work. Right. And there was rejection. And most of the time they said no. And I couldn't handle that in my life at that time. I was too afraid of that stuff. So I didn't prospect. Right. And I knew I should. It wasn't like this was news to me. It was like, no, like I knew you have to prospect. Everyone told me that from the get-go. If you want to be good at business, sales, whatever it might, you have to prospect. Right. I wasn't a good salesperson. Okay, because I wasn't selling. I didn't have any technique or methodology behind how I had a conversation with someone about them being helped by the service I offered. Part of that was because my mindset was all wrong. I had never been in a position where I had to like convince someone to give me money for a job I was doing. Pizza, you're owed an hourly wage. You show up, whether you were good or bad at it, you were getting paid, right? There was no selling involved where I had to convince the boss to give me my paycheck, right? Like if there was, and the boss I had initially, I wouldn't have put it past him. Like that's a very real thing that could have happened. But if there was, like, I probably wouldn't have worked the pizza job because I didn't want to have to convince to get money. I didn't want to make the exchange happen, right? So I wasn't selling. I wasn't closing. If I ever had a presentation, I was like, I would feel good if they told me good job, right? They're like, you did a very nice presentation. I'd be like, thank you. They didn't say something mean. I'm going to leave the house with a smile on my face. That's it, right? I won, even though I didn't close business. And I didn't follow up. I didn't want to be annoying or pesky, so I didn't follow up. I didn't call people back. I didn't check on them when they told me they were going to think about it. I never got back in touch. I was like, oh, they're thinking about it. They'll reach out when they're ready. Never happens, right? And these are all sales related. Bottom line though, this is work harder. Okay. I just needed to work harder. At this stage of the game with my income, I didn't need a course. I didn't need a coach. I didn't need accountability. I just needed to work harder. I needed to put in more work than I was doing. The reason why I wasn't working harder, believe it or not, is I was comfortable where I was at. I was comfortable making $30,000 a year. Okay. Let me tell you what, something about us human beings, somehow we find a way to survive, and not only survive, but be comfortable in almost any circumstance. Okay. And I can share this example. In Anchorage, we had a nonprofit where we would help homeless people. And I remember going into the homeless shelter, and there's a guy sitting there all scabbed out and stinky. And I can tell he hasn't eaten or had a shower. And I remember saying, hey, we're having an event. I can help you get a job. Just be there on Saturday. And he said, no, thank you. I'm good. Okay, guys, he was comfortable, covered in shit, stinky, hadn't eaten, hadn't had a shower. And he was comfortable. If he can be comfortable, I can be comfortable on 30K. You can be comfortable on 60K, right? If you're on 500,000 and you want to go to 1 million, the reason why you're not there is, number one, you're comfortable with 500,000. We say we want it, but we're not willing to put in the work because it's outside of our comfort zone. So I was comfortable on 30K. That was the main barrier between me working harder, doing all these things that I knew I needed to do. These weren't surprises. I knew I needed to do them, and I wasn't doing them because I didn't want to put the work in. And the reason why I didn't want to put the work in is that was uncomfortable, and I was comfortable making $30,000 a year. Okay. Do you want to know what did it for me? Two things did it for me. Number one, my mom died. Okay. And that was, again, you guys have probably heard this story, guys. My mom died, I think on, it was the 28th or the 29th of December. Okay. This was back in, I believe, 2013. And so this like right around Christmas, right? So 3 or 4 days after Christmas, guys, I had to work Christmas Eve and Christmas Day at the pizza job while my mom's on her deathbed because I couldn't get somebody to trade me shifts. That was the first straw for me. That was the not the one that broke my back, but the one that started getting heavy, where I realized I can't not go to my pizza job, and I have to basically not go hang out with my mom when she's only got 3 or 4 days of life left. Okay. And I'm like 20, 21 years old at this time. Like that was, for me, that was like a scarring moment. That was something where I was like, that's like it sucks. Like, and if you think about that, like that, for anyone that would suck, nobody would enjoy that. Whether you're on the end of the guy that's got to work, right? Or whether you're on the end of, the person that's dying, to be like, hey, my son can't come hang out with me. Right? I've got like 3 or 4 days left and I can't see my son right now. So that was the first straw that was like, this is beginning to feel uncomfortable. This is beginning to be something that I can't continue justifying and making sense of. Right. And so I hope for you guys, you don't have to go to that level. I'm hard-headed. I had to experience that before I was like, hey, this is not a good idea. I should change. I should improve. Right. So hopefully like you guys can look at like the potential for discomfort and say, okay, I need to start changing, rather than when it's on your ass, you're like, okay, now I need to do something. Right. That was the first one. The second one, this is the one that actually did break the camel's back. The second one was when I was, commuting. At one point, I lived in Alaska, right? So Alaska is kind of up here. We've got Canada over here. We've got America, continental United States over here. And we have this state over here called Minnesota, right? And I was commuting from Alaska to Minnesota to go see clients about twice a month. Okay, that's like a 6, 7, 8 hour flight, depending on who's the pilot, right? Usually it's pretty easy 8 hours, like miserable. I didn't enjoy it. And so I would have to go back and forth because all the clients, the leads I was getting from Dave Ramsey were in Minnesota. So people would listen to the Dave Ramsey channel and he'd say, meet with my endorsed local provider in Minnesota. That was me, but I lived in Alaska, right? And so I would fly to Minnesota. I would see these people and meet with them, and hopefully I would close some business. At this time, like the event with my mom had me realize, okay, like I need to start doing something. I need to start advertising, right? So I started prospecting and marketing and advertising. One of the things like within that moment with my mom, and I'll never forget this, my mom was a very direct person. Anyone that knew her, you can totally be on the same page and realize that she's a direct person. Some of that's where I get it from. But she is this. So again, she passed away, I think, on the 28th or the 29th of December, right? And this was like a couple days before Christmas. I'm in the kitchen at my sister's house. My mom knows I'm doing this. I'm in the pizza business. I'm trying to get started in my real business. I've been talking about it. I've been saying I want to do it, but I wasn't doing it yet. And she knew that. And she knew that I wasn't earning the income yet, right? This woman is, dying of cancer, stops me in the kitchen and says, Jerry, are you ever going to make money at this business? Think about that. I'm freaking 20 years old. Like my mom is withering away before my eyes. Are you ever going to make money at this business? And this was like maybe on like the 19th or the 20th of December. That happens. I hear that from her. Christmas happens. I experienced that. She passes away several days later. So I started to realize through that, like I need to start making the right moves and moving in the right direction. The discomfort caused me to start putting in some of the work. Got connected with Dave Ramsey, got connected with the lead program. The reason why though I did Dave Ramsey, because I didn't want to make the phone calls, right? Again, I was still being a coward. I was still backing out from the hard work. I was still trying to avoid discomfort. Okay. I didn't need a course to do that. Like I had to make up my mind. This is bad enough that I'm going to do something different. Right. So I started doing the Dave Ramsey program, getting the leads. That's the reason why I got on the program. And so I'm in Minnesota. I've told this story before, but the very last time I went to Minnesota before we ended up moving there, we ended up moving because of this. I'm flying down to Minnesota, right? I'm doing the Dave Ramsey program. So no credit cards, no debt, no nothing. It's cash and envelopes and beans and rice. I'm actually living that lifestyle at that time. Okay. So to get to Minnesota, it's a plane ticket there is like all in plane ticket, hotel and car. I think it was like $2,400. Okay. And I had that set aside. I had earned some commissions. I had that set aside. I had the money to go make it happen. Right. My plan was fly down there, close some business, come back up. Nice and easy. Right. Literally days before the trip, Lexi's car breaks. She was driving a VW. Was it I think a Jetta or a Passat? Either way, it was a VW. It's a German car, expensive to fix. And guess how much the repair costs? $2,400. So I'm wiped. Like my little funds to get from Alaska to Minnesota depleted, right? And I have appointments booked, right? I have people that are going to meet with me. I think I'm going to close some business, and everything is like already planned. And now I don't have the money. So what did I do? I called up Alaska Airlines. I got my very first credit card, even though Dave Ramsey said not to. I charged up a one-way ticket, a rental car for like 3 or 4 days, hotel room for like 3 or 4 days. And I flew down there on a one-way ticket. And my plan was I'm going to go down there, close some business. It'll all be great. It'll be easy. And I'm going to come back home after that. Except it didn't work that way. I flew down there, right? I think for some reason, the way it was set up is my rental car expired a day before my hotel room. So I think I was thinking like if I had to, I could hitchhike. Like it was more important because it's February in Minnesota, which is actually colder than Alaska, if you didn't know. But I was thinking, okay, at least I can hitchhike, right? But I need to have a roof over my head. That's what my mindset was. One-way ticket down, rental car expires, right? Haven't closed a sale yet. Haven't closed any business yet, right? Budget rental car is calling me, leaving collection voicemails saying that they're going to call the cops and they're going to repo the vehicle and that I'm going to, get arrested in some capacity because when you rent a rental car and then you don't bring it back the day it's due, that's called stealing, right? So I was stealing a rental car at that point. And so I'm there and I'm like, ignoring their phone calls. I've got one more night in the hotel room and no way to get a plane ticket back to Alaska. Okay. Think about that. Let that sit in. I think I was 21, 22 years old. And I knew nobody in Minnesota except the people I had met with. So it's not like I could be like, hey, as your Dave Ramsey financial advisor that met with you yesterday, right now I stole a car and I have budget rental car happening, coming after me and I'm homeless. I have nowhere to sleep. Can I stay at your house? Even though I just told you yesterday how I was going to help you get out of debt and retire and all of these things, that wasn't an option. Like I can't have that conversation with someone and still expect them to see that I'm any sort of a credible figure. So I was like, okay, well, I have 1 day left. I have to close the sale. Right. And everything worked out. But the decision that I made in that moment was that I will never let this happen again. Right. Because I already had the experience with my mom. Okay. And I hadn't made the declaration, but I was kind of like, I don't want that to happen again. But this one, it was like, okay, like you already had that experience. And apparently you didn't learn from it. It wasn't enough to make you actually like do everything you needed to do to hit your income goal and make things in your life different. Right. This one did. Okay, I remember sitting in that nasty apartment, like that nasty hotel room. It was like the Budget Inn something of St. Cloud, Minnesota. There were drug deals happening in the hallways. There were like, like domestic violence and stuff, like a couple of doors down. The whole place smelled like weed. The swimming pool was filled with yellow water. I don't know why or how or what that was, but that's what was happening there. And so I was sitting there in the room like, okay, A, this is where I'm staying. That's nasty. B, like maybe I'm going to get arrested. That's maybe going to happen. I don't know. C, I've got to close the sale now or I can't go back to Alaska. I've got no roof over my head. I'm in Minnesota in February. This will never happen to me again. I will never put myself in this position. Okay. And that's for me, the straw that broke the camel's back. I didn't need a coach for that, guys. There was nobody that needed to coach me through that process. I needed to just make the decision and have it be important enough for me to get outside of my comfort zone to go earn more damn income. That was it, right? There's not a course that I needed to take about that. There wasn't a class that someone needed to give me. I just needed to go do it. I needed to work harder and make the decision to be more disciplined and to behave differently. Okay. And I think for most of us, that's where it starts. Decide and do. Right? Like if I'm watching this right now and I'm like, hey, I want to earn more income, because here's the thing, guys, if you earn more, you can save more. If you save more, you can invest more. If you invest more and you earn income from the investing, eventually you don't have to keep earning because the investments do it for you. And now you're financially independent. But none of that happens if you don't earn more. If I don't increase my income, I don't save more money, I don't invest more, and the entire thing is not real. Right? This is why so many people, they join network marketing companies, they do investments, they angel invest, they buy cryptocurrency because they're hoping for financial independence. That's the intention they have. They're like, this is my shot. Right? But what they don't do is actually decide and then just make it happen. Put in the effort, regardless of reason not to. Right? Like when you decide initially to earn more income, that's all there is to it. Just go earn more. There's no special skill. There's no special technique. There's no trick. There's no unicorn. There's no magic line. There's nothing. If you work a job, go put in more hours. If you're a salesperson, go make more phone calls. If you're a business owner, go get more of your product distributed. That's all you have to do. It's just more of the same. Right? But that's the thing is we're uncomfortable. So we come up with this story about, okay, well, I want to earn more, but I can't because I've got to learn what a great idea. I can't do it if I don't know. So let me decide I don't know and then come up with this course that I have to do so that all of a sudden I can know and then I can do it, right? But then when I know it, I can't do it yet because I need to be coached. I need someone to coach me through it. Okay. Like, I don't know. I don't know about you guys. My experiences in school with coaches weren't great ones. Again, it might've just been the school that I went to. I didn't have very many coaches I liked. They weren't people that I was like, I want more of that. Right? Like one of my coaches in high school was one of the meanest guys you'll ever meet. Okay. Another one was literally drunk, the football coach. Like he was literally drunk and got his license confiscated. He would drive the practice on a bicycle. Like these were not people where I was like, this was such a good experience that I want to hire more coaches in my life. So, and I came to that point where I was like, I should get a coach. I had the same realization. The reason I'm not there yet is I don't have a coach. If I just get a coach, I'll be there. Right? So truth is you don't need that initially. You need to decide and do. Okay. Now this is something that I operate on. I tell my guys this, I tell Nano this, right? There's going to be two phases of success, especially with income. There's do more. And then there's get better. Okay, I first heard this from my friend Brad Lee. I don't know where he heard it from. He's been in sales and in the car business for like a million years. So he probably heard this from somebody at some point, but that's where I heard it from. Do more, get better. Right? So initially, you're in the do more stage. When you're like me earning 30 grand a year or 60 grand a year or 100 grand a year, and you're like, okay, I want to go from here to whatever the next level is, whatever the next threshold is. Trust me, just doing more will get you there. If you just put in more activity, it will get you there. Guess what? That means that less time on Netflix happens. That means less scrolling on Instagram. That means you might have to wake up early. That means you might have to stay up late. If you have a family, that means you might see your kids a little bit less. Okay. Those are all things you're comfortable with. Seeing the kids, having Netflix, doing the Instagram scrolling, taking a long nap, waking up late or waking up late, staying up late. Those are all comfort, right? Like, and so what I'm saying is do more. The reason why people don't is comfort. And if you don't do more, eventually like life will enforce discomfort on you. In my example, like, losing my mom and having that experience and then nearly being homeless in Minnesota, like that would have just been terrible. That's life enforcing discomfort on me because I wasn't doing it myself. I want to take responsibility and do it myself, because when I do it myself, I can control how it happens. I control why it happens, and I control the outcome. Right. But if I let life do it, it's never going to be good. It's going to be someone died, you lost your job, you're homeless, you got in a car wreck, whatever happened before you're like, damn, this is not the way I imagined life happening as a kid. I need to do something different. Let me go do more and improve my life. Okay. So that's the initial liftoff, right? Like you just need a lot of effort, a lot of do more, put in more hours, and do more at the thing you're already doing. Don't be like, okay, I've got a job. I want to earn more income. Let me go start a side business that I've never made money at before. And that's how I'm going to earn more income. In the short term, no, you're going to earn more income by doing more of your job, because that's where your paycheck comes from, even if you don't like your job. Okay, guys, I was the king of that. I worked at a pizza delivery place. I did not like that job. I've never met someone other than the people that worked there. I should take that back. Other than the people that worked there, I've never met someone that aspired to be a pizza guy, right? Where they're passionate about delivering pizza. Okay, in the middle of rural Wasilla, Alaska, like nothing good happens late at night in rural Wasilla, Alaska, delivering pizza at 3 a.m. on a Friday. Nothing good. So you don't leave that job like, oh, I achieved something today. Like, dude, no, I almost got kidnapped and stuck in a closet. Like, I don't want to go back tomorrow. That was the kind of experiences I was having. So when I wanted to do more, I just put in more hours initially. I figured out, how do I make more money at pizza? Okay. As I did that, I then started working on the business too. How do I make more money at this business? I was already making some money. How do I make some more? I wasn't like, let me start 7 different sources of income right now. Okay. Because that's the thing that happens is people have heard this multiple income streams, and they're like, the average millionaire has 7 income streams. And they're like, okay, so I have my job 40 hours a week. Let me get involved in 3 network marketing companies. So I have 4 streams. Let me rent both of my cars out on Turo, right? So now I have 6 streams, and then let me drive Uber. Now I have 7. And they're like, I'm that much closer to being a millionaire. No, you're not. You're actually going backwards at that point, right? Do more at the thing you're already doing. Never trade known income for hope for income. If you've already got a job, do more of the job, right? And then what you've got to look at is the get better part. This is where you would maybe add another stream of income in order to grow it, right? So if I'm looking at my pizza job, right? I was a good example of this. That's a dead end job. There's not like a project management certification I can take for pizza delivery driving, where if I take that, I'm going to get a pay raise next year. That doesn't exist, right? There's not like a upper level engineer position that I could get promoted up to. No, you make $8 an hour delivering pizza just like everyone else. There was nothing I could do after I do more and I've maxed out the effort. There was nothing I could do to get better as a pizza driver that was going to make my income go up. Right. So that's a dead end. Some people are not that way. If you have a career where you're like, yeah, I could take a certification, I could go through a CE, continuing education course, I could, get promoted, I could start a new division. Like there are certain career opportunities where you can get better within your realm, stay there, and then earn more income from that. If that's you, you don't need to go jump and do another thing. You need to just do that, get better, right? Like what knowledge do you need? But if you're like I was, and you're like, well, I really can't get better, and if I did get better, there's no return on investment. Okay, good. Then you do need to add not 7, you need to add 1 income stream that has the potential of replacing the one you're at now. And you keep the one you're at now, and you do both of them, and you become even more uncomfortable because you're trading in more time. Remember, you already increased your efforts. You already increased your hours at the job you have. On the new income stream, you're not reducing your hours at the job to do this new income stream. No, you're going to put in even more time with the goal of, I'm going to build this up until I can make the jump, right? Whether that's I've got guys here that are Plexus. I've got ambassadors with Wealth Dynamics. I've got whatever that might be, right? You build it up until you're ready to make the jump over, right? And once you make the jump over, sure, get rid of the other income stream, right? And now what's great is you're in something you fully can control your income with, and you can grow it, and you can put in more work. You can do both sides. I'm going to work harder and also learn. And then when I learn, it's easier so I can do more. Right? You see how that works? When I get better, I can do more. And when I do more, I'm going to reach a certain plateau. I'm going to have to get better again. So if I'm always going back and forth between the two, my income always goes up. Right? Now, what does this have to do with the courses? Because the do more thing, you don't need a course to do more. You don't need a coach to do more. You don't need a class to do more. Get better though, right? Let's talk about that. That's where you do need to have some kind of knowledge. This is something I call the triangle of income. Okay, so it starts with knowledge. Then there is value. And then there's exchange. These are the 3 points of the triangle, right? So if I want to earn more income, right, there's the do more side. Let's talk about the get better side. The get better side means that I gain knowledge, right? So there is potential there for, okay, let me enroll in a course. Let me learn something, right? There's the knowledge. But the knowledge has to be something that makes me more valuable to other people, right? Because that's where income comes from. It's exchange of value. So if I take a course and I learn something, like hopefully you learn something, right? I think it's impossible to not learn anything, but it's not just learn something. It's specifically learn something that makes me more valuable to other people, right? Because a lot of times this is what I got stuck in. I learned stuff that was it was interesting to me. I was, oh, I've always wanted to learn that. Oh, that sounds interesting. Let me pick that up. Let me learn about that. Okay. But it wasn't valuable to anybody else. Right. I'm not like, I can't get income from myself. I can't pay myself for the knowledge that I have. If I could, like, why would I be doing this webinar? Why would I be running a business? I could literally just sit in the bathtub and tell myself things that I didn't know, and money would show up. That's not how it works. I have to learn things that make me valuable to others, because income comes from others, not myself. Therefore, if it's not valuable to others, it's not helpful knowledge for me to have right now. See, that's the difference. And so I have to have that mindset, and I have to be very strict with myself about that. When I learn something, I immediately look at, before I get involved in this, is it going to make me more valuable to others? Okay. And if it's going to, great. Now, the next thing is, not only will it make me more valuable, am I actually going to exchange it with them? Okay. Otherwise, what happens is I learn something that gives me potential value. Like, yeah, certainly and we all have potential value. If I wanted to make money off this, I could. If I wanted to help someone with this, I could. But the question is, will you and do you? Right. And so if I'm going to learn something that I'm not going to exchange with other people, why learn it at all? But it goes back to what I said at the very beginning of this course. Why be here if you're not going to apply it? Why be here if you don't have a purpose? Why be here if you think you can't know it, or you know it all? Right? Why learn anything if I'm not going to apply it by exchanging it with somebody else? Right? Otherwise, like, there's no reason. It doesn't help me get better. It doesn't increase my income. So I have to do all three of these points. Otherwise, the income will not go up. This is the problem with like traditional education. You learn. I went through high school. I didn't go through college. Very few things I learned in high school have been valuable to other people in my life. Right? Like learning about how cells worked in biology. Nobody's ever asked me that. Right? Learning about geometry. No one's ever needed me to do that for them. Okay. So again, same thing with higher education, college. If you're not going to exchange that information with someone else, it's probably not going to increase your income. Evidenced in the fact that when you get a degree, you've got less than a 50% chance of getting a job in your degree field. It's a play out of this exact triangle. Right? So when I do get better, okay, I'm thinking about, number one, I'm going in back, like in reverse order. Okay, I'm going to exchange this with, right? Who? This is the first question I'm asking. Who am I going to exchange the knowledge with? Okay, because it has to be the people that have the income, that are going to pay me, that are going to exchange back. It's not going to be, with somebody that can't exchange with me. It's not going to be with somebody that could exchange with me, but I can't get in front of them. I have to be thinking about who is my end user first, because I'm planning on getting knowledge that's going to make me valuable specifically to that group of people, not the other groups, nobody else, just that group of people. That's who the exchange is going to be with. So then I look at, okay, Who am I going to exchange with? And that's also the next question is how? How is this exchange going to happen? Okay, I've identified the target, who, how is it going to happen? Am I going to do it over social media? Am I going to do it over the phone? Am I going to do it, by showing up to a job? Right? Let me tell you guys what, if you're in business, if you're like an entrepreneur, the how, the best way, the quickest way is go see them or do a Zoom meeting. Like the idea that you're going to make a Facebook post and put a link in the comments and people are going to buy that is not going to happen. You're going to have to get on an appointment with that person. You're going to have to tell them about what you're doing and get their interest and help them. Then they're going to sign up and then they're going to buy from you. It's not like if it was that easy, like everyone would be making money. It's not that easy. So just because you have Facebook and Instagram, like guys, I spend a lot of time and money on ads and promotion and marketing so that people will click the link so that they'll set an appointment with Nano. It's not even so that they'll buy, because that's not how it works. Right? So it goes back again to this effort thing. Am I willing to put in the effort? Am I willing to make the phone call, to get in the appointment, to do the thing that's uncomfortable? Because if I'm not, then I'm going to romanticize the how and be like, I'm going to learn about whatever, let's say interior decorating, and I'm going to make 3 Facebook posts and everyone I know is going to want to buy from me. And they're all going to on the Facebook post, and I'm not going to have to do any work. That doesn't exist. Justin is saying the faster you get face-to-face with a client, the more successful you be. Guys, Justin is like top 1% in network marketing. He's telling you that. I'm telling you the same thing. You have to be in front of the people. No different than a job. So it's not going to be a shortcut out. The way out is the way through. You're going to put in more work, more time, more effort, be more uncomfortable for a period of time until your income goes where it needs to go to. Right? So again, who am I exchanging with? I understand I'm going to exchange. That's the end goal of learning. That's why I'm getting the knowledge. Who, how, right? Where is it going to happen? Then I have to ask, okay, well, what is valuable to these people? This is where I have to be 100% selfless. I have to be willing to not insert my own viewpoints, to not disagree with people, to not, force my own thoughts and my own opinions into their lives. If I ask this group of people that I want to exchange with, what's valuable to you? And they say, underwater basket weaving, I better go learn about underwater basket weaving. Even though I think it's dumb and whatever else, like it's what they want and need. Right? So I have to look at what's valuable to them. I can do that through survey, or I can do that through observation, right? Survey would mean I ask them, I figure out, like the majority of opinion of people, they're interested in this group. This is what's valuable to them. I'm going to, count it all up and find out what the averages are. And based on that, I now have my item that I'm going to go learn about or go exchange with them. Right? Or I can observe, right? Like I think Henry Ford's quote is, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. Right? So sometimes you can just observe, here's a problem. Let me go learn about how to fix it. Okay. So that's something that you've got to look at. And again, I have to be selfless, because what happened with me, guys, is I would insert what was valuable to me. Right? Like I would assume other people thought just like Jerry Fetta, and they liked all the things Jerry Fetta liked, and the stuff I thought was wrong, they thought was wrong. And so that's what I'm going to keep. I'm going to keep just what I want to learn about and what's valuable to me. And I'm going to assume it's the same for everybody else. And then I'm going to go talk to them about it. Guys, that's the most arrogant, like prideful, non-humility, like you name it. You're like, think about that. Your customer, you got to think about who is your customer, your client, your end user, and they're not you. Right? I can't sit down with them and be like, you have to do and like all the things I like, because that's the only thing I know about. That's the only thing I learn about. If it doesn't interest me, I'm not going to learn about it. You will read about things that are boring to you, but they help other people. Guys, do you think I like studying disability insurance? That's something I offer because it's needed. It helps my clients. I need it. You guys need it. So I learn about it. It's not fun to learn about. It's not an interesting topic. It's not sexy. There's not, a charismatic course instructor telling me how it works. It's freaking boring. But I learn about it because it's valuable and it helps the people that I'm going to exchange with for me to know about that. Right? Then I go get the knowledge. Based on that, I'm going to go get the knowledge. Right? Because this is not how it happens for most people. This is how it happened for me first. I would get knowledge based on what attracted me. Right? The problem with that is people are really, really good marketers, especially today. The courses, the coaches, the classes, they're all excellent marketers. Most of them are terrible at coaching courses and classes, but they're expert marketers. They know how to get your attention. They know how to make you feel like you need the coaching program. They know how to make you feel like you need the course. They know how to make you feel like you need the class through advertising and promotion and their funnel and everything they do to make you feel like you need to do it. Okay. So then you sign up not thinking, how does this make me more valuable? And to whom does it make me more valuable to? And is that group of people I'm more valuable to the people I'm actually going to exchange with? Okay, because your course guy is not going to teach you that. He's not thinking about that. He's thinking about the same thing. He did this. The guy or the girl that built the course said, okay, here's my demographic, you. They wrote basically all of the attributes of you on a piece of paper and said, that's my audience, that's my public, that's who I'm going to exchange with, how I'm going to get on their Instagram and their Facebook and their YouTube and everything. I'm going to retarget them. I'm going to advertise them. And I'm going to learn about whatever I need to learn about to make them feel like it's valuable to them. Okay. And then they come up with it and then they sell you the course. Right. And you fell for the bait. Like you did this in reverse. Now, sometimes the courses are good. Sometimes they're bad. I shouldn't say bait because they're not all bad. Right. But my point is that they're doing this. So when you buy the course, are you doing this first to determine what do I need to learn about? Right. So that's the first thing. Now, it's not to say you don't need to learn about anything. You need to learn, you need to grow, you need to improve. My opinion is most of the information in the world, unless it's regarding a new thing that hasn't existed yet, like for example, the metaverse or social media when it first came out, like those are things that hadn't been discovered and done yet. So they're probably subject matter experts and you probably do need to pay for access to get their material. But everything prior to that, pretty much you can go read in books. You can Google it. You can go like everything about everything is available for you to learn about. So you don't have to go take a course. Right? This idea that if I pay for a course, all of a sudden my income is going to go up is false. No. Getting the right information that makes you valuable to other people and exchanging with them is going to make your income go up. How you come about that information, how you gain that knowledge doesn't matter. So if you're like I was, where I was broke and I'm like, I don't have $997 to buy a course. I don't have $5,000 to buy an online university, right? Whatever the thing might be. Good. Then bootstrap it, thug it out, go on Google and go figure out what you need to figure out until you've earned enough income that you can pay for the convenience of someone else doing all that for you. When I do a course now, that's why I do it. I don't want to put the time into having defined all the data myself. So I know if I take a credible course, they took all the right data, they organized it, they put it into a course pack, and I can just go learn that. I don't have to do any of the work of filtering through all the other stuff. But when I was broke, I had to do it that way because I didn't have the money to buy the course, right? There's not magic between one or the other. Either way, I get the information, right? It's about the convenience for me, right? Convenience, maybe some viewpoints I didn't have, whatever it might be. Okay. So that's the thing with the courses, right? If I get the knowledge, great. If it comes from a course, great. If it comes from online books, library, great. Right? Like at one point in time, there weren't courses. And when you wanted to know something, you did just go to the library. And as long as you turned your books in on time, that stuff was free. The library didn't cost you money unless you were me and you didn't turn your books in, right? Then it costed some fines and fees every time I went in. So the point is though, get the knowledge. Okay. If you do it one way or the other way, it doesn't matter. Just get the knowledge. If you're starting out, you don't probably need to buy a $2,000 course to learn something you could figure out on your own. Okay. Now the other aspect though, is once you are earning the income, it's disadvantageous for you based on your hourly rate. If you take your amount of income that you earn in a year and you divide your hours worked by that number, you come up with your hourly rate. If your hourly rate is like $500 an hour, it's probably not worth your time to go research everything on Google, right? Like as long as the course is within what your hourly rate spent would have been. Let's say the course is $3,000 and it was going to take me, at $500 an hour for my hourly rate, it was going to take me 8 hours to figure out all this information. It's cheaper for me to buy the course. See that? So this kind of goes back to the last 2 weeks. It's also not a restriction mentality. Oh, I'm not going to pay for the information. No, if it's cheaper, I'm going to. Right? But if my hourly rate's not up there, evidenced by my income is not up, then it's not cheaper. You see that? So that's part of this. And then the other thing next is classes. Okay. So that's courses. The other thing is classes. In my opinion, classes are to build discipline and repetition. It's because you keep going back, right? Like if you take a course, it's a one and done thing. You leave excited, inspired, whatever. But on a class, like you keep coming back to it, right? I've done boot camps where it's 10 weeks and I come back every week. And the repetition of that helps me master a habit or a behavior, right? Or I'm progressively learning something at the end of it because I had all of the classes in order. I've got the end goal or the end product of having gone through that class. So this is another one that I think is important. Classes are great, but it's within this framework. Okay, paying $6,000 for classes is not going to automatically make your income go up. No different than the course. Okay, so these are all things that I consider, and I did consider when I started earning more income. So my first thing I did is I didn't know how to sell, and I knew I didn't have the money, so I did all the books on Audible. I think I bought like a $50 webinar on sales. That information alone got my income up. Right. That was it. It didn't take me a bunch. It took me just that little bit of investing in some books and some different things, and then applying what I learned, and my income went up. Right. Then I went into classes. I went into an actual online sales university. And at that time, it was like $1,000. Right. But I knew that I was not going to get that information anywhere else. If I was going to, I already would have done it. And I had already read a ton of books. Right. So I knew that was something that I needed to go do in a new unit at a time. I need to take this class because it's got information, it's organized, all the things I said, and it's going to help me build discipline. If I do it every day, the repetition is going to make the information stick. Okay. So just doing those two things, I think my income went from like 30,000. This was back in 2015, like 30,000 the year prior to, I think I finished the year off at like 68,000. Okay. Doubled my income, right? More than double. And I spent like maybe $1,200 all in to do that. Right. I did not hire a bunch of coaches. I didn't go to a bunch of mastermind groups where we stayed in a rented Airbnb for 4 days and we had, catered food that I could have got from Qdoba. Like none of that. I just spent like $1,200, took the courses, implemented it. I didn't have this down as a formula, but I basically did this. I knew something, it made me valuable. I exchanged it. Right. Now, here's where I get into the coaching. I don't personally do coaching. I don't think it's helpful for me. I don't think most people need it. I started to get into coaching. I thought that this was the next thing I needed to do. The problem with coaching is it's expensive and you don't know exactly what you're going to get. Right. So my first coach, I hired a coach. It was $1,000 a month. Okay. I got one call a week, 30 minutes. That was it. Okay. And I was like convinced. I was like, this coaching thing, this is where it's at. This is going to take me to the next level. Right. Now, here's what I learned from the coaching. Okay. This call basically was, Jerry, what are you going to do next week? And I would tell him, well, next week I'm going to do this. Okay, good. So when I call you next week, you'll do that. Yep. And then next week would happen and I wouldn't do it. And we get on the phone. He's like, Jerry, what were you going to do last week? Well, last week I was going to do this. Did you do it? Nope. Why didn't you do it? All of the reasons. Okay, good. So then next week you're going to do it, right? Yeah, next week I'm going to do it. And then it would just keep on next week, last week, next week, last week. And it basically, that was it. Okay. And so what I ended up doing is I kept that for a while because I thought it was working. What was really working was the fact that I had to now keep up with $1,000 a month expense, right? Like it might as well have been a car. Like me spending an extra $1,000 a month made me do more. It wasn't the coaching. It was the fact that I had this new fixed expense. It was more than my rent was at the time. Right. So I was like, okay, well, I just need to go make more income. So I just started to do more. I had already done the education. I already had the programs. I already had the learning done. I just needed to do more to make more money. Now, this is what did it for me. The coaching, this cycle finally ended when one time I got on the phone with my coach and he was frustrated at me because didn't do it last week, gonna do it next week, didn't do it last week, gonna do it next week. And finally he was like, okay, Jerry, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write out 5 checks. And I want you to, and we actually did this, right? 5 checks. I want you to take all of the money you have in your bank right now, right? All of the money that you have in your bank. And I want you to divide it by 5. And I want you to write that amount on each check. Basically, these 5 checks represented all of the money that I had. Okay, he said, I want you to take 5 organizations that you hate, and I want you to make the checks out to them. Okay, so I like pick like the US Treasury, the IRS, like all these like institutions, organizations I hated. I wrote them on these checks. So like make sure you guys have this down. All of the money that I had was basically on these checks and they were addressed to these institutions. I don't even think Lexi knew about this when I was doing this. Then he said, I want you to mail me the checks. Okay, I want you to mail me the checks. Do not date them. And I want you to just sign them and mail them. Next time you get on a phone call and you tell me you didn't do what you were going to do next week, I'm sending one of these checks. Okay, guys, I almost crapped my pants. Right. And I wasn't going to not do it because my coach, like he had altitude. I go, well, I can't disappoint my coach. Yeah, I got to do it. So I did that. And guess what? We never had to send a check. The reason why is because that was enough to scare me. This goes back to my very first point at the beginning of the course. That was enough to scare me into doing the work. What I realized is I had gotten comfortable once again. I went from 30 to 68,000. I hit my income goal. I was comfortable now. I was like, I'm good. Right. Making more money than I ever made. Like things are good now. I can slow down. I can enjoy it. I can be comfortable again. This, and again, like the more money you make, the less bad stuff happens to you. That's a real thing, right? So he had to create an artificial bad thing to happen to me because I put myself back in the same position. And what I realized is when I sent him those checks, I made the decision and I did everything I already knew how to do to go make the money, right? And then I realized that I didn't need a coach for that. Right. And this got reaffirmed when I was looking for a new coach, because again, like after I did that, it like there wasn't a whole lot my coach could help me with at that point. There was like, I wasn't any longer like, didn't do it, gonna do it, didn't do it, gonna do it. I was like in a normal condition. I was making money. I was doing everything I needed. So we get on these calls and it was like, I didn't really need help with anything. Right. So, and I didn't learn on the coach, like, okay, it didn't really help. Right. So then I was like, well, I need a better one. I need a new one. So I started searching out like the top person I could find. Very best coach I could come across. Okay. Came across this guy named Scott. Scott is still one of my boys today. One of the people that I will listen to on the topic of business. Okay. Get on a call with this guy named Scott. First question I ask Scott, I say, do you have, or do you offer coaching? Okay. I was like, do you offer coaching? And he asked me like genuinely, he was confused. He's like, what do you mean by coaching? And I was like, you know, like coaching, like everyone knows what coaching is. Of course, you know, like you offer it. And he's like, can you explain what you mean by that? So I explained it to him. I was like, well, you know, like in the past, I would have a call once a week or once every other week for about 30 minutes to an hour. You know, we would set goals and then I would, you know, like talk about how I was going to accomplish them. And then the next week I would, you know, set out to accomplish them. And then on the next call that next week, we'd get on and we'd find out if I did my goals or not. And then if I did them, we'd set new ones. If I didn't do them, we talk about what I should have done different. And he was like, this is what he actually asked me. Do you have an ethics issue? Like, do you have a personal ethics issue? And I was like, no. I was a little bit offended. He's like, do you have a personal ethics issue? No, like, of course I don't. I'm Jerry Fetta. Don't you know? Like, I don't have personal ethics issues. He's like, okay, good. Well, then what is wrong that you can't keep your word with these coaches when you tell them you're going to do something every week? And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd never thought about it like that. When I tell myself I'm going to do something and then don't do it, to the degree I don't do it, I lack personal ethics. I am not someone that keeps my word with myself. When I tell a coach I'm going to do something and then don't do it, to the degree I don't follow through, I lack personal ethics. Call this integrity. If ethics is not the word you use, I lack integrity. I am somebody that says I'm going to do something and then doesn't follow through. And he called me out on that within the first 2 minutes of the phone call. He's like, the way I see it, if you had personal ethics, you wouldn't need a coach. Okay. And he's like, what you need knowledge, you need hard work, and you need ethics. And that's it. And if you have knowledge, the right knowledge, like what we talked about here, right? Like not just random knowledge, but knowledge targeted to exchange with the right people, right? If you had knowledge and you put in the hard work, what we talked about up here, like there's no way around it. You got to work hard. And you had personal ethics, meaning you kept your word once given, whether it was with yourself or somebody else. You would not need a coach. Okay. And in that moment, I knew he was right. This was back in 2017, I want to say. I haven't had a coach since. Okay. And in 2017, I think, you know, the year before I made like 200 grand, that was with coaching and all that stuff. Guys, I've more than 10x my income since then. No coaching, no paying for master classes, no going to masterminds, no staying in, you know, some famous person's Airbnb mansion that we rent. I don't do any of that. Okay. And the reason being is I don't think it's needed. I don't think you really need that to earn more income. I think that those are all barriers that we create. Nobody else creates them. It's not the coach's fault. Like, he's a nice guy. I'm sure he helps some people, and sure, people need the accountability, right? It was my fault. It was my responsibility. It was me creating all of these reasons why I couldn't go earn more income now. Right? Me avoiding the hard work, me avoiding the discomfort, me, avoiding not just learning, but learning about something that I might not be interested in because other people might be, and I want to help them. And that's why I'm going to learn about it. Right? Me not keeping my word because it was more comfortable not to earn more income. Like, that's what's needed. And it takes increasing responsibility, increasing my own personal responsibility, putting my ethics in, doing what I need to do when I need to do it. No excuses, no justifications, no stories about why I didn't, right? And then just making it happen. So to sum things up, I think anyone can earn more income. Okay, there's no reason, doesn't matter where you live, what your gender is, what your skin color is, what country you came from, anyone can go earn more income. And it comes down to what we talked about in this course today. Right? And if anyone can earn more income, then it comes down to, okay, are you going to? Okay, and you don't need to spend a bunch of money on courses or classes or coaches. Now, when would you maybe need these things? Again, the get better stage, right? And when I think about like what do I actually need instead of a coach? Sometimes I need supervisors and instructors. I don't consider them coaches. It's not like, I'm getting a pep talk. Like, think about when you were in sports. What did your coach do? Like, he told you to run the plays. He told you, like, good job. Like, you need to do this better, right? Instead of that, what I focus on is I focus on instructors. This is, again, more on the knowledge side. An instructor is somebody that can teach me how to do something, right? Like, they're going to teach me how to do something, how to get better at sales, how to market, how to whatever. This is more along the line of like learning. It's not really necessarily accountability and coaching, right? I don't do coaching, right? If anyone asks me for coaching, my style of coaching is the 5 checks. Okay. Like, whatever you need help with, if you ask me for coaching, that's how we're going to do it. You take everything in your bank right now and you write that on 5 checks. And if you don't do it, we're sending those checks. Right. And then the other one is supervision. Right? This is oversight to make sure that I'm doing something correctly. So if I'm like having trouble with something, it's either I don't know how to do it, and I'm going to do like a course or a class or hire an instructor who's going to like teach me how to do the thing, or it's I think I know how to do it, but I'm not actually. Right? And this is where a supervisor would come in. They would watch me and they would say, "Hey, I see what you're doing. This part is not correct. Go back and fix this." They don't talk to me about my feelings or why I didn't do it. Because at the end of the day, guys, if it matters, I'm going to do it. If I have a supervisor like, hey, the reason why your marketing isn't working, we looked at it, we supervised, we watched you do it. Here's what you need to fix. And I'm like, okay, great, I'm going to do it. And then I don't do it. It means I didn't care about it that much. Right? Which goes back to, am I willing to put in the work? Am I comfortable? Okay. So like that really is it. I really don't have a coach. I really don't spend a bunch of money on masterminds and all this stuff. I do think knowledge is important. I do think that you have to focus on knowledge value exchange in that sequence. And at the bottom line, end of the day, all of us can go earn more. There's no reason not to. There's every reason why you should. And it comes down to, again, do more and get better. Okay. So guys, what I want to do is I want to open this up for some questions. If you're on Zoom, drop your questions in the comments. If you're on Facebook, just drop them in the chat feature. And we'll go ahead and answer them here live. Let me see what we have on Facebook first. Good to see everybody here on Facebook tonight too. Sean, good to see you. Steve, good to see you. Andrew, good to see you. Vanessa, good to see you. Justin, good to see you. Sean, good to see you. Justin says pain is a good teacher. Sometimes it has the potential to be, as long as we're not too thick-headed. In my case, sometimes pain could have been a good teacher if I was paying attention and learned from it. But I agree with that. Just as vulnerable post, this is exactly where I'm at. My wife and I are both at the highest rank you can be at in our network marketing company. It's a blessing, but I admit that I have become comfortable. I have the opportunity to re-enter under myself in a second position to become the first male double diamond at our company. That's awesome. Everything in my being and even some other things outside of my being is urging me to go for it. Thank you for this call. It's confirmation that it's time for me to do something that has never been done before. Hi ho, here we go. That's awesome. Justin's going to kill that. Good to see you, Jeanette. Look at that. Steve already wants to get involved in Justin's business. Stuff happens on these calls, guys. That's awesome. I hope you guys connect up. Daniel says target your ideal audience, shotgun approach or the sniper approach with the right data, interests, etc. Something Ben wants to get in on Justin's business too. Justin says, I had a coach do that to me. He had me write a check. He had me write it out to Bernie Sanders though. So here's the thing though, Justin, whether you wrote that check or not, Bernie was somehow going to get that money from you. whether it was voluntary or involuntary, Bernie Sanders would get that money from you somehow. All right, great. Let's jump on Zoom and let's see what we have in the chat. So if you guys are on Zoom, drop your questions in the chat. We will go live and mic up. This is one of the opportunities that I get to connect with you guys in real time. So if you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you have scenarios that you want to talk through, now is the time to drop those in the chat feature. And what we'll do is we'll unmute you and then you and I can talk about it and go over those. All right, and I don't see any questions yet on Zoom. Let me give a minute or two just in case anyone wants to drop in any questions or things they would like to chat with about or chat with me about. All right, let me see if we've got anything here. If not, what we'll do is we'll wrap up in a minute here. Good. I don't see any questions here. So guys, we'll go ahead and wrap up. If you're watching this tonight and or on the replay and you did not yet get a copy of my book, Blueprint to Financial Freedom, you can grab that here. If you go to jerryfetta.com/B2F, that's the letter B, the number 2, the letter F, you can grab this. This will give you like the very last couple chapters, some of the best content I've ever written and some of the best content I've ever seen on how money works and how earning income works. So if you want to earn more income, grab this book. If you go to the very final, like 2 or 3 chapters, all about that. And it's stuff that if I would have been told from day one, my journey would have been a lot easier, right? Things that I picked up through observation, learning, studying, like today, 10 years in business, millions of dollars later, that I can be like, man, everyone should know this. And it's in that book. So make sure you grab a copy of that. If you are somebody right now that's looking to increase income, okay, if you're like, I've been doing the coaches, the courses, the classes, try what I talked about tonight. Like really give it a try. And not like you tried it for a couple of days and then fell off. Like do it for at least a month, right? And I would say 90 days is better. And I promise you it will work. Okay. Other than that, guys, we will be back again next week, same time. I almost changed my course topic tonight. And I could have done that and been fine, but I left it. But next week we'll cover the topic I almost changed to. I'm going to talk about the difference between whole life insurance and index universal life insurance. I've been asked that question a lot, so I'm going to cover that next week, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion. It's not a video I've ever done before, and so I'm going to do that next Friday, so be sure to tune in same time. Other than that, have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you guys all next time.